Good morning and welcome to realestate.com.au's rent series. My name is Allie, Thompson, and this is Kurtis, Pirotta, and we are the rent specialists here at realestate.com.au. We know the property management industry is always evolving, so we want to make sure that you're staying ahead of the game. So let's get ready for 2020. In this rent series, we'll be interviewing Kristen. We'll also be going through realestate.com.au's latest updates, as well as our latest data and things that are evolving at realestate.com.au. So Kurtis, where are we at?
Good morning and hello everyone, and thank you, Allie. And I'd just like to make a special welcome to Kristen O'Connell from Jealous Craig, who is our special guest today. And what I think I love about some of our world in real estate is everyone is very interested in growth. And today's, I suppose, episode is very much around getting ready for 2020 and making sure that we have all of the tools and skills and strategies and processes in place to have a really successful year. And I think if we think about where would that start? It probably starts now. It probably started last month, actually.
Definitely.
And so Kristen's going to talk to us a little bit about what are some of her strategies to be able to maximise 2020 and give our viewers and our audience some tips and tricks around making sure that they kick the year off really well. So I've spoken a little bit now. Maybe you could tell us a little bit, Kristen, about yourself and how you got started in real estate.
Absolutely. I sort of fell into real estate. Like I think most people do.
I did anyway.
I finished year 12, was going to go to uni, but deferred for a year, and Dad said, well, best you get a job. Dad's a printer by trade, owns his own printing business and does a lot of work for real estate agencies. So he set me up with an interview with a company close to home and went and met with the director of the business, and he said, I think you'd be suited to property management. Had no idea what it was at the time, and said, sounds great, when do we start? And then fell into it, and I fell in love with the industry and the people that I met, and the way that we're able to help people, and was a property manager for 6-7 years, and then sort of transitioned into the new business role. Bit more of a challenge, got excited, and really just trying to help people out with their biggest investment.
So how many years has it been now?
Almost 8. So in May it'll be 8.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is a good tenure.
It is. It's a long time. It feels like it's gone really fast, actually.
Yeah. Do you think having that property management experience in your growth role now, do you think that helps sort of give yourself credibility to customers and landlords, and do you think it helps?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm able to really talk to the landlords and explain what they can expect. Ultimately, business development, it's a sales role, but when the long-term longevity of their property and the investment is at stake, I think it's important to be able to come to people with exactly what they're going to be experiencing, particularly first-time landlords. They don't want to be shocked by anything, straight up. So it's important to really know what you're talking about and to be able to talk from your own experiences. I think that's really important.
I think with first-time landlords as well, they're probably sometimes the people we meet all of the time that they just fell into real estate. Like we're sort of joking about falling into the job of real estate, but there's a lot of people in Australia that they just buy real estate because it's sort of the investment that people have always made. Like families in Australia, if we look back on the wealth that's been created in Australia, a lot of it comes from property. And so some of these first-time investors, I don't know if anyone knows, but they have no idea sometimes about what the hell goes on with the rental property. And what do you mean I have to pay for a new toilet? I thought their tenant will buy the new toilet system.
They used it.
Yeah, they're the ones that broke it.
And when a BDM's explaining things to a landlord of, we're going to do this periodic inspection, or we're going to do this inspection, they're like, wow.
Yep.
Like the things that we do as a property manager or a BDM, we've got so much to do in that space. But it's managing their biggest asset at the end of the day.
Exactly, and I think it's really important to explain to them why we do these things. And ultimately they just want money in their pocket, but explaining to them how we set it up from the beginning to make sure that they're not at a loss down the track, because quite often it's not that first year, it could potentially be 2, 3, 4 years down the track that the issues could come up. So setting it up right from the start is the BDM's job, and making sure that the team behind the BDM really has the best start to the program, and go from there.
It's funny how you say team, because we always say when we're talking to our customers around having successful conversations, winning listings, sometimes certainly it's about you as the person in the living room that's doing the sale and promoting the benefits of doing business with you and your agency. But often it's actually about promoting the effectiveness of the team and the structure of the team behind you. Because not that you are this person, but ultimately sometimes in sales we fly in and fly out, and then the other people sort of pick up the pieces or take it from there.
You've got to have that backbone property management team in there, or else it's going to go.
Because ultimately you're promising something that someone else will deliver, right?
Absolutely. You can't do it all. You know, I've worked in portfolios where I've done end to end, and I think the reason I landed with Jealous Cray is the structure that they've got. You know, we've got leasing teams, we've got property management teams, you know, strong administration teams, and our accounts as well. It's just impossible to do it all and to do it all well. So it's important that you can rely on your team, and that when you are sitting in the living room with the client, that you're confident in backing the team that are going to be doing the work for you.
Great.
I love that. Okay, so we've got some questions for you, but I think what I'm really keen to end today with is maybe a handful of tips, 3 to 5 tips that we can leave people with to really have a successful 2020 and kick that off really well. And so if I think about some of the questions that I've prepared earlier, Kristen, let's start thinking about when you started in the BDM world. So what would be the best advice that you would give yourself if you started again? Because, you know, it's like sales. You start in sales and you go, okay, here is the 100 things you need to do. What would be sort of the key activities or advice that you give to yourself or people watching at the very start?
I think it's important to build a strong database, make sure that you are, one, nurturing the leads that are given to you, whether it be from call-ins to your office, your sales team, but really making sure that you're adding value to the client the whole way through, getting to know what the client's desires are, what their long-term plans are, so that you can really develop a plan that suits them. I think, you know, every landlord's different. Someone's moving out of their home, they want to rent their house out for 12 months because they're going overseas, or they're a long-term investor. So really getting to know the client and making sure that you are adding value to them. I think that's the most important thing when you're starting out in the role, so then you can tailor it to suit them.
And so with the face-to-face questions that you're having and the interactions, do you find that the questions you ask are sometimes far more powerful than the answers that you give?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a client will always mesh better with you and feel a lot more confident in what you're providing them if you show interest in what their long-term goals are. You know, you don't want to ever sit in a living room and be interviewed by a client because, you know, they'll often say, oh, a lot of what every agent does is the same, but, you know, everyone knows that that's not the truth, and you've got to really have faith in what you're offering them and that you actually care about what their plans are.
So your points of difference are always going to be different to somebody else.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you find that when you identify what their plans are, because if we think about these first home buyers or first home investors, sometimes they bought a house because their parents made money and their grandparents made money on a house. But do you find if you identify what are their goals for their portfolio and their plans, it actually unlocks a bit of a better relationship down the track in regards to, okay, you've said you want to have it for 5 or 10 years, your house is really ugly and needs so much improvement, maybe you could consider painting it, taking it off the market for a few. Like, do you feel like you have more powerful interactions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to find out, you know, what kind of tenant they envisage that they're going to have in a property. And if they turn around and say, I want a professional couple or a professional family, and you go, okay, well, you need to provide a professional house. And if it needs painting, if it needs carpet replacement or a new kitchen, that needs to be done in the beginning. There's no point in getting down the track and it's been online and you're not getting that tenant that you want. You're getting share house applications because that's the product that you're putting out. So it's important to align that with them and make sure, you know, it's the same thing. If it is a house that's going to be demolished to build townhouses in 12 months, well, make sure that it's, one, compliant, it's livable, it's in a decent condition, but, you know, give the share house group a go and really aligning it with them.
I love that. And that's actually really relevant, I think, for everyone. So as much as, you know, Kristen, you're speaking about what you'd be doing in a listing presentation from a growth point of view, ultimately that information is really relevant for property management teams, leaders, to revisit these conversations with some of your existing portfolio.
And we know what landlords want. They want the right tenant. They want it to be occupied. They want you to pay the rent on time, but they also don't want you to damage it. So we're making sure that we're putting in that right tenant to make sure that it works for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we think about the past again, what would be sort of the biggest lesson that you've had? So what wouldn't you do again that you might have done back when you started?
I don't think it's so much as what you wouldn't do, but making sure that, you know, you're being upfront and honest with the client from the very beginning, and really acknowledging that compliance is a huge issue at the moment, and it's really prevalent in, you know, where we are at the moment with the changes to the RTA, and making sure that you are explaining to the client what is required of them, laying it all out, and if they're not willing to do that, well, acknowledging that not all business is good business and letting them rent it on Gumtree.
Yeah, they'll be on the market for a little while, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually really good advice, because sometimes when you're in growth mode, you sort of say, give it all to me.
Yeah.
I'll take everything. You're overpriced, I'll take it. And we'll sit on the market for a while, and it's a pretty crap experience.
I think that's the background of having property management experience. You know, I never want my team to be dealing with a client that's unreasonable or is bad for the business. You know, as a business development manager, your role is to set it up right for the company that you're working for and for the team that are going to be dealing with it. You know, I'm not going to be the one that's doing the routine inspections and having to fight with the landlord to fix the toilet. So making sure that the client aligns with the business model and the team that you're giving them is important.
Right. So I suppose holistically about your career, there'd be some really great mentors maybe, or people that have inspired you in your career to be successful.
Yeah.
You know, can you think of any of those at the moment that sort of come to mind, and why?
Yeah, there's a couple. I always aspire to women in the industry as well, and there's Bev Adam, who works for Jellis Craig in the Fitzroy office. Whenever I've dealt with her clients in the past, they speak so highly of her, and I always come back to her. You know, I think I was talking to her a couple of weeks ago, and she mentioned that, you know, she's now dealing with people who she dealt with 10 years ago. She's selling their next house, helping them find the next house. And the clients that end up renting their homes, they just speak so highly of her. She's really passionate about what she does. And I think that's what inspired me to make sure that I am getting to know the client and what their long-term plans are, because I plan on having a long career in the industry. So just trying to align myself with the values that she has, which are really special.
And I think if you break that down, it's probably like I'd love to speak to Bev today about this as well, but I think ultimately if you break that down, it's probably just doing a few of the basic things really, really well.
Yeah.
Right? Like getting back to people.
Getting back to people really quickly is important. Strong communication skills, but really answering the phone. I think that's a big industry issue. You know, the most common complaint that we hear from people externally is, no one ever answers my phone call, and I think it's important to just be there for them when they want to talk.
In rentals, we have done some research recently.
Yep.
Can you recall?
So tenants and landlords are like, they want to be spoken to within the day. It's like getting back to a tenant about an application. You know, we submitted it over the weekend. Is it going to be back to us by the end of the day? And it makes sense because they want to get into the local school as well, but they will also want to have security on where they're going to live. Yeah. So talking about getting back to people and picking up the phone, that really came through in the research that we did in the last 6 months. Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's tenants and landlords as well, making sure that you are, you know, giving tenants that due respect as well as your landlords, because ultimately if your tenant's happy in their property, they're going to stay long term. There's enough properties in Melbourne that if the tenant isn't happy, they'll just move out.
And I think even with the lease renewal process is another, I suppose, opportunity to try to keep really good tenants. Like there's this amazing lady in Brisbane who's been in the industry for a while. Her name is Jodie Stainton, and she always says we want to give tenants an invitation to stay. And if a good tenant is, like, if they're a good tenant and they're paying rent on time, giving access to the property and just overall amazing, you ultimately want them to stay, but sometimes in the lease renewal process it can be quite misleading, and sometimes they might leave out of principle because they want to find they just don't want to pay the $5 increase that you've asked for because it was delivered poorly or something like that.
But also don't forget, some tenants are even landlords.
True.
Magic.
Absolutely. Funny the referrals that come through the tenancy database.
That's it. But it's so important to make sure that we're treating tenants and landlords alike, so that one day when it does revolve around, if tenants are going to be tomorrow's buyers, that we've still got that great communication and the drivers of satisfaction on why they want to stay with you, Kristen, why they want to stay with your business.
That's exactly right. Sometimes when I sit in the living room, I ask the landlord, you know, what was their experience like as a tenant and who did they rent through? We've heard some great stories, we've heard some bad stories, and quite often, you know, recently as well, which really excites me, is they'll say, I actually rented through your office a couple of years ago or 12 months ago. And I say, okay, well, if we did a a bad job, I wouldn't be sitting here today, would I? So, it's that extra foot in the door, and it makes sure that, they know who they're dealing with, they know what kind of experience their tenant's going to have, and it just allows for a really good experience all around.
Okay. So I think we now move into some pointed, let's get to the tips. 2020 is around the corner. Do you remember years ago, I did anyway, years ago you'd say 2020, in the future, it's going to be, that's what we're going to do in 2020.
And we're here.
It's in a few weeks. So let's talk about what would be some key tips. So first of all, I'm really curious about your marketing.
Yeah.
And so we want to know how do you position marketing to make sure that first of all landlords are seeing value in marketing, but also what's in it for, I suppose, your business and why it's important from that element as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing when it comes to marketing, and my biggest non-negotiable, is professional photography. So making sure that the property looks the best that it possibly can online, so that you are attracting those tenants through the door. Highlight listing packages as well. I suppose making sure that you are pinpointing the property at the top of all properties within its price bracket is important, so the tenants see it, but pitching it at a price where it's achievable and you're going to get tenants coming through the door. But back to aligning it with what the landlord wants. Do they want the pick of the bunch? So do they want to pitch it at a price where we know we're going to get 30 people through the door, or do they want to test the market at that high price, see where we go and adjust down if we need to? It's all about making sure that it fits in with the landlord's wants and where they want to go with the property. But yeah, just making sure that we are making sure that the property looks the best that it possibly can every step of the way.
And I suppose when you try that optimistic view, you can give it a crack for a few days or a week. And if you don't achieve a result in that time, you can quickly align it so that you get a result before it's vacant or sits on the market for too long.
The rental market moves really quick. So based on inquiry level and how accessible, everyone's on their apps, everyone's on their phones, everyone's always there. So I think it's important to make sure that you are testing it, but only testing it for a short time. 3-4 days, one open for inspection. If you're not getting the right people through the door, well, be proactive and bring it down into a price bracket where it will generate the right interest. There's no point in it being online for 1 week, 2 weeks, 10 days, whatever it might be, because the landlord's losing money. So it's just being really proactive and making sure that you are meeting the tenants.
With objections, right? So I think you have some non-negotiables around what doing business with you means. How do you overcome fee objections or marketing objections?
I think it just always comes down to adding value and finding out what that landlord wants. Being confident in the service that you're able to provide and really backing your team. I think that's where clients see value, being passionate about what you do. I think the best feedback that I've ever got from clients, and I'll always ask them why they signed up with me, down the track. They'll always say, oh, you were passionate about what you spoke about, you were excited. I really felt like you and your team could do the best for me and make sure that it does get a great result. And I think that's it's all in showing value to the client. There's always going to be people offering cheaper fees, and it is a conversation that we come across regularly, but it's all about just making sure that the value that you offer is there.
And I suppose articulating that, right? Because it's all well and good to say we deliver value, or we do really good marketing, or we have a good fee or an average fee. But if you can't articulate that in a way that people understand and recognise, okay, I did think all real estate or all agencies were delivering the same service. I thought it was a sea of sameness.
That's it. It's all going online, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Aren't you just going to put it online, tenants will come? Don't you just do a signboard? Everyone asks for that. But when you can articulate, well, here are some things that we do, here's a list of things, and this is why it works, and this is our strategy, this is a formula that we have, it gives people confidence.
Absolutely. I think showing case studies of situations that were similar to them and how that played out, and actually putting it down in a picture and showing them what it would look like to put their property online. This is a townhouse very similar to yours that we leased down the road a month ago. This is what we did, this was the plan, and just getting them excited and on board with that as well.
Okay. So I think we've got another 2 minutes of our time with you. What would be, let's rattle off some 5 tips. So I don't know if we've thought about this much, but I think that we've got some 5 tips at least that we can come up with to help people this afternoon win conversations, attract people. So at the very start, you mentioned databasing. Why is that important?
It's important to make sure that you are looking after the clients on your database and acknowledging that not everyone's ready to go now. So some of them are a longer burn. So making sure that you're on the phone regularly, but making sure that the clients don't want to be harassed, asking them, when's a good time for me to call you? Because for some people it might be in a month, for some people it might be in 2 months. So just making sure that you are maintaining that database, keeping up communication, but relevant communication as well.
Okay. Is there any low-hanging fruit that you sort of target at the start of a week or the start of a quarter that you know is going to be a little bit easier to bring over?
I think making sure that you've got a pipeline clearly set out and that you've got maybe, the properties that are ready to go within the next 0 to 3 months. They're the ones that you want to make sure that you're on top of all the time, and making sure that you are offering them value. And on a Monday, if you've leased properties or you've had a lot of people come through your opens on the weekend, talking to those people on a Monday and saying, this is what we're seeing in the market, and showing them what they could achieve, because that could potentially bring them forward and bring their timeline forward. If you've got tenants off the back of a similar property, well, potentially you could do it off market, or if you went to market, it's exciting and you know that there's a database there.
Okay. And that's ultimately important, because you're wanting to have, I always used to say, have one eye on the now and one eye on the future, because the 0 to 3 months is probably a good timeline, but you'll find some people that have been, they're making up these barriers for themselves as to why they want to wait an extra few months, was really they could just bring it on the market sooner and it'll be fine.
Absolutely. And I think some people are also waiting to find something else. We have a lot of clients who are in maybe a 2-bedroom house, they've got a couple of kids, they need that next size, but they're going to rent themselves. So trying to find them a property to rent will allow you to then rent their property out as well.
So third one I'm thinking is immediately Bev. So you refer to Bev, a great salesperson from the Fitzroy office. How close or how important do you think relationships with the sales team are in an office for a BDM?
It's so important. I think if you've got the backing of a really strong sales team, they're out there all the time meeting people. They're ticking off names that open for inspections, they're at auctions, they're meeting people, they're finding out why they're looking to buy, why they're looking. So aligning yourself with the sales team is really important. Even popping along to open for inspections and auctions yourself, having the opportunity to meet people, that's just, you don't get any better than that.
And how powerful having somebody from the property management team at an open in case they're an investor.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving them rental certificates on the spot, letting them know what the property could achieve there and then. And, you've got your foot in the door automatically. They've met you, they've seen your face, they've spoken to you. So I think that's really important.
Do you take your sales team out for coffee? Like, how do you ensure that they're handing the leads over? Because Bev seems like, you guys have got a great relationship. I really want to meet Bev.
I think it's showing value to the sales team as well. If you're looking after their clients, they're going to refer to you again. You can buy their love with coffee. Everyone loves a bit of caffeine, but ultimately I think it's proving yourself, letting them know what you're doing every step of the way. I met with this client, this is how the conversation went. Just an email saying, hey, this is going online, they've given us the okay. Or if you need that little bit of help to get a deal across the line, reaching out to them and going in as a team, I think can really help as well, especially if that sales agent has a good relationship with the client. I quite like going into appraisals with the sales team too, and it really shows that we're cohesive, we work as a team, and the client really sees value there.
Because then they can trust you that you're going to deliver the same level of service to their client as much as they would themselves.
Exactly right.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any other tip you want to share? Your secrets for 2020?
I think just making sure that you are, you've got your goals set out for the first quarter. Like you said, that starts now, or a couple of weeks ago really as well. So making sure that you are ready to put properties online just before Christmas or just after Christmas, so that you can get the rush of tenants who are getting ready to start for the new year. They're moving into schools, new workplaces. So really being on the front foot with having photos, marketing all ready to go, so you can hit the green light and go live.
Awesome. Well, actually, that's a really good segue. So stay tuned. We're about to transition now into why January is such an important time. Allie's going to take us through some really great tips and some stats around what the next month will look like on our site based on historical data to make sure that you're well positioned. So I want to take this opportunity, Kristen, to say thank you so much for coming to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
What I felt like was a little bit short notice, but this lady over here has stepped up and decided to participate and help us out. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
See you. So,
Really great.
oh, how cool is she?
Yeah, she's really got everything organised for 2020.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
hate
would
to
look
see her
out if
diary,
I'm in her
but-
market.
Yeah,
Look out.
hate to see a diary, but you know what? So what we're going to go through now is the latest data from realestate.com.au, and it's so important that we've got this data that we can share with you all about what people are looking at. So let's cut it straight to where people are looking and how they're looking. Some of the latest data and the things we get asked at realestate.com.au is where are people looking and how are they looking? So this part of the data will show you the hours and the times that people are looking online. It'll also show you where people are looking. So 77% of our traffic is coming through mobile device. Now, Kurtis, think about it. Instagram, Facebook,
I'm always
everything
on
your
Instagram.
phone. I know. He's got one phone, he's always on it. But at the end of the day, he's looking at property between 4 and 8 p.m. at night. So think about it. People say, what's the best time to upload a property in the day at realestate.com.au? It really thinks about what time should I upload for people to see things. So there you have it. People are looking between 4 and 8 o'clock at night. The next part is, who is our customer? The landlords and tenants. So we want to make sure that we're looking at those tenants and landlords alike. So what are tenants actually looking at? Did you know that tenants are actually typing into the rent site on realestate.com.au, the suburb and the suburb only. So they're looking in that particular suburb, but they're also keeping an open mind of things that they'd like. So is it going to be in their price range? Is it going to be in the bedrooms? But 81% of our tenants leave it on most relevant, which is the filtered search on realestate.com.au that stays there when they open it up.
That's the default search, right?
Correct.
So if I open it up today, I'm looking at searching in Richmond or Abbotsford. It's going to show me most relevant. So what does that actually mean?
So that means that the premier listings are going to sit on top, then the highlight underneath the feature, and then falling into the standard. So it's so important to think, where is your property actually placed on realestate.com.au, and is it even being seen? The next bit of data that we really love to share is, what do tenants find most challenging? And believe it or not, the tenants want to make sure that they can find the right property. So searching is the biggest problem on realestate.com.au. Are they finding the right property? Believe it or not, people actually think that that tiled floor isn't suitable for them. That purple kitchen isn't great. But then also finding the time to see a property. So are you catering to your tenants and your prospective tenants of the times that they'd like to see a property? And the last one as well is, are they looking in the right time, the place, as well as what are they really after at the end of the day? So the tools.
So let's run through some of the ways that we can help our customers, win more conversations with landlords, and also help landlords identify, well, why should they do or take your advice or recommendations. So we have a whole page. It's actually where you're watching this today. It's our Agent Marketing Centre. It's actually my second favourite website to realestate.com.au. But seriously, this is a place where we keep all of the tools and training that is required for you to have really successful conversations. That's just Siri going off in the background.
She's listening to us.
She's always listening. Do you ever get that actually with like Google, like if you're talking in a conversation with your friends about going on a holiday to Japan and then you start to see ads?
They just pop up on
They
the
just
side.
pop up. Anyway, so that's Siri trying to talk to me right now, but I'm in the middle of something. So on our Agent Marketing Centre, we have the brochure mock-up tool. This is just a way of us to help you sell the features and benefits of online advertising, because that's ultimately what is going to help us all have some success. So you can create your own customised brochures on our Agent Marketing Centre under the brochure mock-up tool, which is a really great way, and a lot of BDMs use that to have conversations with their customers. We also sometimes get people asking us, Allie, like what... do people even use the internet? Why does it matter? There's only 20 listings in my suburb. Like, why does it matter where I sit online? Sometimes we believe this fast facts tool is a really great way of highlighting to landlords and also your team how many people are in fact searching that suburb. And so what we can do is pull in data on the fast facts tool where you can identify how many people have searched for rent in a suburb on the app, mobile and desktop. And so the benefit of that is you can actually say with confidence, well, did you know that in the last month, nearly 30,000 people searched in this suburb, and that's why we really need to make sure we're capturing that audience.
It's probably my most favourite tool, because you know how many people are looking at your particular property. also how many properties are available in that current market, but also how many people are actually searching. If it said one, fair call.
Yeah.
But there was a suburb that I was in the other day and it was over 90,000 searches.
That's huge.
So there are people looking on realestate.com.au for rentals.
Surprise, surprise. Another key metrics is around how long people are spending on site. And so if you think about the internet and how it works, everyone can have a website. Your agency most likely has a website. If you're in a franchise group, they have a website. And a lot of the time, back in the day anyway, websites were designed to be a real powerhouse for information about you, contact details, get information about the history of your business, the about us, as well as whatever you're selling, the features and benefits of those products. Whereas now, there are aggregates or other players in the market, like realestate.com.au. They've built trust with consumers, and so the purpose of your website in a way has changed. And so what we measure success in our business is obviously the amount of views. Views is really important. You can have loads and loads of views, which is really, really good. But the second most important thing, I think, is how long people spend with you. And so on our site, you can measure and you can get stats for your state or Australia, but nearly just under 5 minutes is how long people are spending on our site when they come to visit, which is phenomenal. When you look at the average, which is, I think, far less than 2 minutes, this is ultimately saying that when people are with us, they're engaged, which means they're engaged with your listings on behalf of your landlords, which really is the value.
And think about it as well, if people are searching between 4 and 8 p.m. at night and they're only on site for just under 5 minutes, kids, schools, cooking dinner, things like that, they all contribute to the 5 minutes that they're on. So how many properties can they actually look at properly within the 5 minutes?
Totally. And I think if you think about back in the day, I used to catch the bus to school, and it's, as we know, I'm turning 30 soon, but back then it wasn't that long ago, and there would be all of this time at bus stops waiting around, and I think like all Australians, you just ignore the people that are on public transport with you, and you would just be silent. Whereas now that time is filled with time on your phone. It's called dead time. And so it's really important because that's why mobile searching is key, right? So we have a stat around 77% of tenants that are using our site are searching on the app or on mobile, and it just reiterates that the way you appear online, particularly on the mobile app, is very important.
Very. So moving forward, you've got a lot of other high-end level data that's probably great for your landlords.
We do, and ultimately this market insights data is available again on our agent marketing centre, and it's just really good to give you some information around what's going on in the market, how your listings compare versus the market, but also it's really great information to put into your weekly newsletters or monthly snapshots to investors. I think in most parts of Australia, and we're going everywhere today, Allie, by the way, our first national one, we're going everywhere. And what we know is that in different markets, everyone's got a different need. And in most of those markets, your landlords, often, half of them maybe, they don't live in the area. And so really they're relying on you to give them information about what's going on in the market. And we're trying to provide you some data and insights to be able to add into your newsletters or videos or regular updates to empower you to win more landlords, but also deliver a bit of a better service to landlords around what's going on in the market. Because I think maybe back in the day, in Australia, the first TV show that came out, it's been going since back then. It's not Home and Away, it is the news. And sometimes landlords, they rely on the news to get information about the property market. And sometimes, as we know, that could be a really good story. And sometimes it could be a really bad story. And so what we're trying to do is empower you with good information to fill into those conversations as well. The second piece of that would be around our one form listing report. How do you use this?
I love the one form listing report. Obviously, we collect a lot of data at realestate.com.au, but for example, educating landlords on where the market is sitting at the moment. So in Sydney at the moment, things are a little bit slower. They are going to be picking up, especially moving forward into January. But saying to a landlord, look, Mr. Landlord, your property isn't worth that $500 per week, and these are the reasons why. You can talk to your blue in the face, but we want to give factual data. So factual data comes with our one form listing presentation tool.
That's probably a really good point, actually, to remind everybody that we're in December now, we're moving very fast into January, and in between, over the next few weeks, it's going to slow down. Regardless of whether you're an office that's going to stay open or skeleton staff or close, ultimately, we just want to remind you of a few things. The first thing is January is a busier time. In fact, it is
our busiest.
The busiest time for views on realestate.com.au's rent section. In fact, there are
Over 20 million visits in the rent section on realestate.com.au in January alone.
And so that's from January 2019, which has been a 4 to 5% increase year on year, which lets us know that typically January is a very popular time for listings to be on realestate.com.au, but it also means consumers, tenants, and landlords are actively looking online to see who's got stock, how are they presenting it, and if I'm a landlord, who should I call to look after my investment property based on what I've seen.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so if we think about what Kristen was saying before around setting up for January or setting up for 2020, making sure that you've got really amazing listings presented really well and promoted really well online over the next month is going to be key for how your year will unfold.
Let's talk about our next report.
Let's talk about our next report. Thanks for keeping me on track.
No worries.
And so this is our campaign report. I'd say the most underutilised report.
So all the things in this campaign report tell you exactly about the property, how many days it's been on site, where it's sitting on site, what kind of listing it is, but it'll also tell you about the views, how many people have saved the property, but it's also telling you about your property performing. So on this report, there's nothing on here that a landlord cannot see. It's great.
And so this report comes every Sunday evening, and it should be sent to your property managers or the team. If you don't know where they're going and you use a booking business to organise your inquiries and so forth, it might be actually sent to a different email address. So speak to your account manager and find out where that might be so that you can make sure you get these reports, because if you're not using these to educate landlords on a weekly basis, you're really, I suppose, putting your listing at risk, because if it's overpriced, you'll know. If you're on track or off track, you'll know based on the data in this report. If we drill deeper, the two favourite things I love are the saved searches and also the graph. Because what saved searches will tell me is how many people have seen my listing. They've clicked the star to save it, which says, Allie, I really like this place. But if I've not viewed it, there's a disconnection, which means that there's a disconnection with the listing. And as we know, it's always one thing, it's always the price.
But technology is always evolving.
Yep.
So with this star listing, it's going to tell you if you update the price, and you're going to get a push notification.
Hold on. So if I'm a tenant and I've saved your property, I haven't gone to the inspection because I've seen it, I think it's overpriced because I've seen other ones that are a bit cheaper.
Yep.
If you do change your price, I'm going to get a notification or to let me know that there's been a new price at this address, and that's going to prompt me to come and inspect your property.
Correct. So we'll be able to tell a landlord how many people have actually viewed the property. So they've moved into the ad, they've read the description, but it's going to tell us how many people have saved it. You only need one person to move in at the end of the day. So Mr. Landlord, there are people watching your property. They're just waiting for you to probably change the price.
I like that. And I think the graph helps tell that story as well. It's ultimately going to show how the market is doing, but also how many views are you getting versus the market. And so hopefully all of this adds to your other pieces of information. It adds to the feedback that you get from tenants at the inspection. It adds to the feedback that you've got based on email inquiries, as well as what people have seen online.
Exactly. So that's pretty much it for today. We've covered a lot in our 30 minutes.
We actually have a bit more.
We do.
We are giving extra value today.
There you go.
It is not over yet because we've got so much value to give.
Okay, so let's talk about a few other things, our latest updates at realestate.com.au. So obviously with OneForm.
Let's do that. So what we want to go through is this new thing that's actually not new anymore. It is the tenant verification. So, Allie, how would you explain this to some of our customers that have never seen this before?
So what tenant verification is when a tenant is applying through OneForm, it allows them to have the opportunity to purchase a report. So what the report will indicate is that their 100 points of ID have been checked. It'll also check them on the bankruptcy database as well as the court database. Now, a few other online systems aren't able to do this, but the best thing about this, it says to the tenant, when you're purchasing this, let your application form stand out. Let it stand out to property managers. And I think in some current markets, there are a lot of people applying for properties. And yeah, there are other ways to secure a property, but the main thing is having all those documents checked on realestate.com.au's OneForm.
We have seen so much interest from tenants looking to do this. And so we launched this in December 2018. And since then, we've had over 50,000 of these reports purchased from tenants who want to do everything they can to stand out. And what's interesting is sometimes we always consider tenants to be a little bit annoying, right? People that don't apply with the right information, and sometimes they can really hold up the process. What we've seen is tenants that are purchasing this report are trying to stand out from the pack and make sure that that their application is maybe prioritised ahead of others because they've done a little bit more to maximise their perception of their application form.
And having a full application sent to a property manager is a big tick.
It is a big tick. So we talk about inspections all of the time, and we've spoken about how 77% of tenants use mobile to search for properties. What we did this year is finally, like I remember when I started at realestate.com.au, people would say, but when are you guys going to have the book inspection button on your app? You're saying that everyone uses the app, but where's the button? And so earlier this financial year, so in July, we launched this button in the app finally, and it's been amazing. We've seen over 100% increase in people booking for inspections with our customers. So if you're using an online booking platform, hopefully you would have seen some less email inquiry for people just asking, can I come and view this? And a whole lot more people booking and registering for inspections.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense. Everything's on mobile.
It does. And you were saying before, Allie, that a lot of people are looking online in the evening. And so it's convenient because people can do it and lock their time in at a time that's convenient for them rather than waiting for an office to get back to them, an email or calling the office to book. It's far more convenient.
Perfect.
And so another thing that we've launched recently is we want to help BDMs and property management businesses stand out online through a search function. And so we don't have a leased section. We don't have a place where landlords can go and find agencies that have really good success and have really great results to share. And so what we've started to do is uplift our agency search function where our customers can start to be shown to new landlords looking to do business with. And so you may remember this, we've done a bit of an uplift and we've just changed a few things that we want to let you know about. The first thing is we've made it a lot sexier.
Looks great, doesn't it?
It does look good. Another thing that we've done is change the way we deliver the agency. So back in the day, you might remember the white pages or the yellow pages or all the multicolored pages. It doesn't matter what color the pages are, but you may remember, and it was A to Z. What we've done now is made it most recently listed. We want to sort of highlight the agency that has had the most recently listed property, and they'll be at the top of the list. So this list, as you can imagine, will constantly change. And so that's the first way we're looking to help agencies showcase. What we want to do down the track is help agencies that have really great results. So how many properties you've leased in the last period of time, what the days on market have been. Because when landlords are searching, they're coming to our site right now to see who's advertising similar stock to theirs, how are they presenting it, and is it in a similar suburb to theirs. We want to help agencies stand out with this new agency search function.
And it'll definitely stand out on the left-hand side there with your logo on it.
100%. One thing we want to highlight as well that's new is the Property Showcase in the app. So again, you might remember Property Showcase that was on the desktop. It would sit on the right-hand side and you would be able to put all of your listings through there, or you could advertise one property and there would be a carousel and it was amazing. That still exists. But what we've done is we've brought that experience into the mobile and app experience now, because that's where a lot of consumers are looking. And the coolest thing about this particular product is it sits second after the first premiere and it'll always sit there. So it's a fantastic product, and we're seeing loads of agencies realise the value of the branding element, but also a really great selling proposition in lounge rooms when BDMs are speaking to landlords about why they should be selected, why they should choose me, because they're doing everything they can to attract the most amount of tenants, and this product is a fantastic example of that.
And you can showcase all your properties or just certain properties through there as well. So that's another big highlight for a landlord win.
And another one as well is actually that you can promote other suburb properties. So let's say you've got a property from a different suburb and you want to advertise it in a suburb that is getting either more traffic, or you know that loads of tenants are moving from that suburb. A great example is in Noosa. There's lots of smaller suburbs around Noosa, and so it's sometimes hard to attract people to those particular suburbs because not many people will know about them. So customers are buying this in the bigger suburbs of Noosa to promote their smaller suburb listings, and it's working very well. And the fact that it's in the app is fantastic.
Great.
It is great, isn't it? How good is this? So one thing we wanted to highlight as well is we redid in July the e-brochure. So back in the day, you might remember you might use MailChimp and send out an email blast to tenants with your hot properties, and in return on a Monday you'd get back an unsubscribe list that was huge. We used to do that as well with our e-brochure product, and we would send it to all people that we had and say, yes, you would love this. There was a bit more science and technology to it, but I'm sort of playing it down a little bit.
But now.
But wait, But now what we've done is we've decided, okay, we actually know about tenant behaviour on our site. We know how people are using the internet and our site, and so we can actually target how we send this product out. And so we've had a huge reduction in the amount of unsubscribes. And for Premier customers, you will be getting this e-brochure for free. And we just want to remind you of the benefits of it because it's a fantastic way of targeting passive tenants or people that aren't in the area.
Especially for people that are looking and looking and looking, but may not have time to continue to jump on site and see what's new, they're going to be emailed straight through to them.
Absolutely. And so we want to wrap up just before we do with a reminder about two-factor authentication. So privacy is probably the most important thing going on in technology at the moment. We want to make sure that the data we're collecting on your behalf for tenants and landlords is kept safe. And so with OneForm, what we've introduced in the last few weeks is two-factor authentication. This is basically a way that we can verify your identity, but also make sure that offices that are using joint emails or the same email for OneForm access, we need to stop that behaviour and change it to a world where everyone that uses it has their own login, their own password, and we're able to verify your identity with a unique code sent to you as a text message. We've seen over half of our active OneForm users transition to two-factor authentication, which reminds us of the importance of the security and the data that we're collecting, and hopefully should give confidence to our tenants, consumers, to landlords for the data that you're collecting on their behalf, but also for our customers. These days, privacy is probably the most important thing to keep trust with organisations. And once you lose trust, you can ultimately have a massive impact on the business that you have. If you think about some of the big social media companies and dating websites that exist around the world who have had technology breaches, they are no longer as trusted. And so we want to make sure that through our business OneForm, we are still a trusted brand, and that is why we're introducing the two-factor authentication. So if you don't know about it, please let us know. There is information where you're watching this today on the Agent Marketing Centre. But also, if your office is on board, please let us know your feedback because we want to consistently evolve that. Wow.
That's it. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Look, today I think has been fantastic.
It has. And moving forward to 2020, we want to make sure that we're giving everyone the head start that we've got at realestate.com.au with all the tools. And I think it's so important to make sure that we're getting rid of stock before Christmas time, but also allowing us to start fresh for 2020.
And I think what we love, Allie and I, are in this role where we get to travel around and see lots of agencies and offices. And as much as we'd love to do this one-on-one, it really is not going to be the best way. And so that's why we've started to do what we're calling the Rent Series. And we're planning to do this on a regular basis where we can make sure that we're coming to you in your office at a time that's convenient for you, or more importantly, being recorded so it becomes a bit of a warehouse of information and tools where we can continue to give you value on a broader scale nationally.
And tell us what you want to hear about. Interviewing industry experts is probably a great thing as well. But if there's other things that you want to hear about, please reach out to us and let us know.
Your feedback is vital. And so recapping some of Kristen's topics, tips and tricks today, I hope that you're able to come up with a go plan or a strategy list to really maximise the people you get to encounter over the next few weeks.
So that's us. Have a great Monday and we look forward to seeing you soon.